Hey fellow babies, I'm Michael Pachter. You're watching the very first episode of Pachter Factor. You may be watching it on SIFTD.net if you're watching it on Saturday, Halloween. If you're watching it a week later, you're watching it for free on YouTube because we're not going to make people pay to get some Pachter lovin'. But if you want to get Pachter lovin' in a timely fashion, I hate to break it to you, but this is a business thing. It costs money to make the Pachter Factor. So you can subscribe to SIFTD.net. It's $30 a year for premium subscription. If you would like to get a discount on that, you can put the word Pachter, P-A-C-H-T-E-R, in the promo code box and you'll save 10%. So for $27 a year, you're going to get about 50 Pack Lovin' episodes. So we're looking forward to it. If you can't afford it or you choose not to afford it, there's plenty of other good content on SIFTD.net. By all means, watch on YouTube. We're happy to have you share in the Pachter Lovin'. But welcome to the first episode of Pachter Factor. Okay, fellow babies, before we get into the questions, I just want to let you know exactly what I do and who I am and why you care. I am a stock market analyst. That means that I help investors, professional investors, make better decisions about investing in certain stocks. And I cover 24 of them, among them the video game publishers. So I cover a bunch of other companies. I cover Zynga and King and Pandora and Netflix and Amazon and Facebook and Twitter, but I also cover Activision and Nintendo, Take-Two, Ubisoft, EA. So I can talk intelligently about games. It does not mean that I am the best gamer in the world, far from it. It does not mean that I played every single game all the way through and completed every level at the hardest level. No, I have not. You are not looking to me for game reviews. You might look to me for how many units a game will sell, because I'm pretty good at that, and that's a business decision. You might look at me for, how is a company going to do? Are they going to make a profit? And profits matter because profits get reinvested in other games. So you really want to hear my business spin if you care about stuff like that. If you're looking for game reviews, or you're looking for somebody to be a fanboy and say that a particular company CEO is great because the company is great because it's your favorite, they make your favorite game, that's probably not coming from me. So when you come to listen to Pachter Factor, you're going to get Pac's opinion and nothing more. If you're a SIFTD.net member, then it's worth what you pay for it, which is about 50 cents an episode. If you aren't a SIFTD.net member, then it's absolutely worth what you're paying for it, which is nothing. So keep your opinions to yourself if you're not a SIFTD.net premium subscriber. If you are one, by all means, you can bash on the Pack, but if you're paying for this, you have a right to. If you're not paying for it, I don't want to hear it. I don't care. If you'd like to get more Pack lovin' beyond the Pachter Factor, I'm on Twitter at Michael Pachter. If you want to submit a question for future episodes, you can submit it to at Michael Pachter or at SIFTD Games on Twitter. Make sure you put the hashtag Pachter Factor, and we are going to answer a bunch of questions every episode. So looking forward to those questions rolling in. Now we're going to get to the first question for episode 1. Our first question comes from SIFTD, go figure, premium subscriber, named Andre with an I at the end. I love this guy already. He's going to ask a question about somebody with an I at the end of their name too. Do you think Konami made a smart business decision when they decided to focus on mobile and scale down the AAA productions? Well, that question is a good one, and you asked it right. It's absolutely a business decision. And the truth is that if we are to believe that Kojima has in fact left Konami and that he's not on vacation, then Konami doesn't have a lot of AAA franchises left. I mean, their biggest one, the biggest producer of their biggest franchise is probably leaving the company. So I think that this is a necessary business decision. I think that they are no longer going to make as many AAA games as they've made in the past. There's certainly more money in mobile. If you look at the aggregate size of the mobile games market, it's north of $20 billion. The console business is probably about 12. So mobile is a bigger opportunity. Obviously, mobile games cost less, so the returns can be much, much bigger. The problem with mobile is it's very crowded. And if you look at mobile games and you look at the top games, they tend to be from companies that didn't exist 10 years ago. So they tend to be from Supercell and from, King and from Machine Zone. Those are not exactly household names in the console space. So it's very hard to crack the top 10 or top 20 or top 100 games if you're a console developer. Electronic Arts has a handful of games, but they tend to be brand extensions. So Simpsons, FIFA, Madden, Tetris have done pretty well. All licensed properties and all brand extensions. I don't think there's very many from EA that are, top 20 games. Activision has cracked the top 20 with Hearthstone, so they can do it. And again, that's coming from the guys who brought you World of Warcraft and StarCraft and Diablo. So pretty established developers. I think it takes a lot for Konami to crack into the top, top echelon of mobile. So my expectation is it won't be a smart business decision. But I think if they can't make AAA games, they've got to try something to stay in business. I wish them well. I've gotten many, many hours of enjoyment from Konami games over the last 15, 20 years, and I'm hopeful that they do something right mobile. I hope that works for them. Our next question comes also from SIFTD, from Cavr, C-A-V-R. With the recent news about Sony confirming that it is ceasing the first-party development for the Vita, do you think this is the end for it? Is third-party support enough to keep the platform alive? Will the Vita be the last handheld made by Sony? I'd say yes, no, and yes. So yes, I think it's the end of the Vita. No, I don't think third-party support is enough to keep the platform alive. And yes, I think it's the last handheld made by Sony. I think that Sony made a mistake with the PSP and with the Vita, which is analogous to the mistake made by Electronic Arts chasing MMOs, with Star Wars, The Old Republic. I think that when Sony decided to make handhelds, they were looking at this robust Nintendo DS and then 3DS business. And the DS, as you remember, sold more than 25 million copies a year for 5 consecutive years. And Sony thought, we can do that. And they entered right about exactly when the DS started its decline. And the Vita came along right about the end of the decline of the DS and the launch of the 3DS. And I think that it was an expensive device entering a declining market. Not so coincidentally, the decline of the DS was exactly correlated to the rise of smartphones. And so we ended up with these devices that we bought for other reasons. We bought smartphones to communicate, and we found that we carried them all the time. And once you carry your smartphone and you carry it all the time and it's got a ton of apps on it, how hard is it to download a game or two? That killed the older end of the demographic for handhelds. And over time, when these phones came down in price and data plans became family plans where you could share, I share 22 gigabytes with my family for $100 a month. Suddenly, my daughters have smartphones and everybody's daughters have smartphones, and that started to cannibalize the lower end of the age demographic. So I think Sony really just had a bad timing with the launch of the PSP and the Vita. They're ceasing first-party development because they're not making any money on the Vita on anything, and third parties will abandon the thing as soon as sales drop to near zero. They're pretty close to zero now. So I really don't think you're going to see anything other than games like Monster Hunter, that do pretty well on the handhelds. And frankly, I think you'll start seeing those games for the 3DS. I think it's primarily going to be Japanese games, and the relationship with Sony will go south. And if anybody wants to make handhelds, they're either doing it mobile, like Konami is trying to do, or they're going to end up supporting the 3DS. So, good question. I think the Vita, you can stick a fork in it, it's done. We have a question from Twitter, from @QuadraticAdam. What a great name. Would you elaborate on what Vivendi's intentions are with its purchase of a large, in the question, $6 plus stake in Ubisoft, and we're now up to 10% as of today. It's pretty clear that Vivendi thinks it's really brilliant at owning video game companies. And if you recall, Vivendi merged Vivendi Universal Games into Activision and formed Activision Blizzard back in 2008. And when Vivendi did that, they had 67% control of Activision, which kind of stayed there. I mean, it moved around in the 50s and the 60s, but they consistently had a majority control. And that deal had a 5-year life, meaning Vivendi wasn't able to sell stock for 5 years. They did sell stock after 5 years. They made a small profit on their investment, but it really didn't work out for them. The stock is up dramatically since Vivendi sold its stake, but literally they merged. I think the stock was at about 9 or 10 in split adjusted terms. They sold out most of their stake at 13, but it was after 5 years. They sold the last piece of their stake at 24, which was a lot, but the stock is at 35 now. So Vivendi left a lot of money on the table, and a lot of the reason Activision stock is at 35 now is because Vivendi doesn't own it anymore, and Activision is doing some different things. So one of the problems with control of a company in a business that you don't really understand is that the company doesn't tend to innovate. And I think that, not that Activision lacked for innovation, but I think they were stifled by Vivendi ownership. And I don't think that that Vivendi owning Ubisoft is going to make Ubisoft a better company. I think that Vivendi management will be stifled by by Vivendi ownership. And I think that if they are stifled by Vivendi ownership, they're likely to not perform as well as they have in the past. So frankly, I don't think that the CEO sticks around if Vivendi buys them. So I don't think that that's likely going to happen. I think he would compete. I think you would get companies like Activision, EA, Take-Two stepping in and hiring away the talented people at Ubisoft. And I'm not sure Vivendi would have much left. So I think their intentions are to make a creeping acquisition. I think they will fail. I don't expect this to pan out, and I think that ultimately they're probably going to have to just sell their shares and give up, but we'll see what they choose to do. Our next question follows up on this last one from Twitter @ShortRaver. I'd love to know what specifically made Activision Blizzard's stock price go crazy over the last 5 years. I answered it in the Vivendi question, but to just be more specific, Activision stock didn't really go crazy over 5 years. So from 2008 to 2013, the stock barely moved. I mean, it literally went from like 9 to 13, but that's with the market crash of 2008. The market more than doubled. So the stock did not keep up with the market, not even close. So Activision stock was actually kind of a turd until 2013. Once Vivendi got out, the stock ripped, and it went from 13 to, as I said, 24 when Vivendi sold out. But from mid-2013, when Activision first announced it was buying out Vivendi, until January of 15, the stock only went from 13 to about 20. This year, it's gone from 20 to 35. It is one of the best performing stocks in the market, period, in 2015. And the real reason that it's gone up is that they have a really great management team at Activision. They are executing exceedingly well. They have gone from a standing start in the free-to-play business to launching Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm, both of which are doing really, really well. They've got Overwatch coming next year. They've got Call of Duty in China that perhaps can contribute a lot if it gets marketed correctly. And now they're talking about entering esports. And again, I'm not sure what they really plan to do, but investors are pretty psyched about it. The market has been terrible the last few months. I mean, it's just been moving sideways. And there's been a flight from kind of speculative stocks to quality names, and Activision qualifies. They're one of those stocks people think is a really high quality company, probably primarily because their management is so good. I think their CEO, whatever gamers think of Bobby Kotick, investors love the guy. The guy is actually the best in the business. I think that the company is a great company, one of my top picks. I've really liked it, but it's up so much this year because of the flight to quality and because the company is executing so well. We have a question from SIFTD from Dogface Pig. I think it should be Dog-Faced Pig. I think it's not proper English. Was it worth it for Microsoft to secure Rise of the Tomb Raider as a timed exclusive? Will it hurt sales of the Tomb Raider franchise as a whole? You know, great question. I don't know what they paid. So the answer is I can't tell you if it was worth it. I'm not sure that exclusives matter very much at all. It seems to me that people who play Halo, for example, are Xbox. I mean, they're going to buy an Xbox anyway. They always were. They played Halo on the Xbox before because they owned an Xbox. They're going to play Halo this time because they either own one or they were going to get one anyway. And people who are PlayStation 4 fanatics, never played Halo, don't care. I mean, there are a few people, obviously a few million, who switched over, who went from Xbox 360 to PlayStation 4. Probably Halo wasn't one of the reasons they left. They probably didn't care. So I actually think exclusives don't make that much difference at all, with the exception of Call of Duty DLC. If all your friends are on Call of Duty DLC, playing it all at the same time, and that's PS4 this time, that was Xbox 360 last time, that matters. And when you're deciding whether to upgrade your console, and you go from Xbox 360 last time, and you're looking at a new one this time, and PS4's got the first release of DLC, you probably are thinking about PS4. So Tomb Raider, not that big a franchise. I mean, it's a 5 or 6 million unit franchise globally across both consoles. What are we talking? 3 million on the Xbox One and 2 million on the PS4? Who cares? So probably not worth it if they paid a lot for it. Probably doesn't hurt sales of the franchise. Remember, Rise of the Tomb Raider is not this big multiplayer phenomenon where we're all going to start playing against one another in death matches at midnight. This is more of a single player experience. It doesn't really matter if you get it now or you get it in 3 or 4 months or 6 months. I don't even know when it's coming out on PS4. So the answer is, I don't think it's worth paying anything for an exclusive, but it gave Microsoft bragging rights at E3. They could show you, all the cool Lara Croft footage. It looks like an exclusive. Sony kind of did that with Destiny, made Destiny look like an exclusive back in 2013 or 14. So again, you can pay for making something look like an exclusive without it being one. Sony very definitely did. I think Microsoft's doing with Tomb Raider. Don't think it's really worth it. So one of our new elements to the Pachter Factor is I'm going to make a bold prediction, and my producer, Shane, is going to kick my butt and rub my nose in it if I'm wrong. So I'll make a prediction that won't come true for a year, so we'll at least have 50 episodes of Pachter Factor before we know. My bold prediction is that the next Rockstar title is Midnight Club. So I think that's pretty bold. I think a lot of you expected the next title to be Red Dead, and I think many of you thought it would come out this year. If you remember, the last game from Rockstar was Grand Theft Auto 5 in September of 2013, 2 years ago. They haven't released anything other than GTA 5 on next gen and GTA 5 on PC. So they're really due for something. Of course, it must be Red Dead. So my bold prediction is it's Midnight Club. And by the way, nothing wrong with Midnight Club. It's a phenomenal game. We like it. They like it. I don't think they've abandoned it. And I'll give you the basis for my bold prediction. It comes from Rockstar San Diego. What other game comes from Rockstar San Diego? Oh yeah, Red Dead Redemption. So those guys are highly unlikely to be working on both games for launch the same year. Midnight Club came out before Red Dead last time. I think it's coming out before Red Dead this time. All right, fellow babies. Oh, I should give you the etymology of fellow babies. So fellow babies comes from Dr. Johnny Fever in WKRP in Cincinnati, which was a show in the 70s, which I must confess I never watched in the 70s. I caught up on WKRP in Cincinnati in syndication, and for whatever reason, it was on at like 8 o'clock at night or 7:30 at night on my local television channel, I think KTLA. I watched it every night for like 2 years, and I saw all 8 seasons. It is a hilarious show. But Dr. Johnny Fever, who was typically stoned when he was on air, called his listeners fellow babies. So you guys are my fellow babies. I don't think you're babies. It's a 70s thing, like, hey, baby. It's just like old hipster thing, and I'm pretty old, so that's where it came from. Wrapping up this week's Pachter Factor. You can watch this immediately, right as we post it on Saturdays. If you are a SIFTD.net premium subscriber, you're watching it a week later. If you don't have the money, can't afford it, or choose not to afford a SIFTD.net premium subscription, I'm happy to have your viewership, your friendship, and your questions any way I can get them. Follow me at Michael Pachter on Twitter. Submit questions to at Michael Pachter on Twitter or at SIFTD Games, and hashtag Pachter Factor, and we will answer as many as we can get to. Thanks for joining us.